something. Can you see that? Can you see the background at the bottom of my screen? June, you're not going live, are you?
I am, ma'am.
Come on, June, we're not even.
I'm setting it up, otherwise Facebook will get, I'll post it shortly.
Okay, just go ahead. No, I think I figured it out. I think I did figure it out. Trying to see what's causing that at the bottom. Morning, Nifemi.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. I need to make one adjustment. Just a moment. June, is the lighting all right?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Thank you. I'll be back. Morning, Nifemi.
Good morning, doctor. How are you today? Great. June, are we good to go?
No, not yet. Dr. Armand will be back shortly.
Oops.
Good morning, everyone. I'm back. Sorry about that.
Hello? Okay, sure.
Right, here I am.
Are we good to go?
I think it's time to take our picture first.
Oh, okay.
Can you please turn on your camera? Thank you. Can you please give us a smile? One more, please. Thank you.
Or are you going to keep that face mask on?
June, we're good, right?
Yes, please, sure.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome on board. Thank you so much for joining us. This is another exciting edition of the Think and Reimagine podcast. And this is really an unusual one. We're talking about Think and Reimagine meets Pillow Talk. And I'll be talking to the executive director, let me call her the executive producer of the Think and Reimagine podcast, Dr. Amma. She's also being joined by Mr. Peter Armand Boyo, who also happens to be a co-producer of the podcast. We'll be talking about his own personal content online called Pillow Talk. So we've called it Think and Reimagine meets Pillow Talk. Dr. Armand, Mr. Boyo, welcome on board.
Good morning.
Good
Thank
morning,
you.
and thank you.
Good morning. By the way, this year's 16 Days of Activism against Gender-Based Violence is running from 25th November to 10th December 2021. And the theme for this year's observance is Orange the World, End Violence Against Women Now. You have to keep tabs on this particular space because we have a lot to talk about in that regard. Dr. Amma, we've done 44 episodes now. How does that make you feel?
Well, I didn't realize that we've done 44 episodes. What can I say? Kudos to the team, to you. I can't take the credit, but it's marvelous. And I hope that we have thousands and thousands, and maybe we reach 1 million one of these days. But well done, everyone. That's fantastic.
And welcome, well done to the visionary. It all begins with a vision, right? I think it's a good place to start.
Does.
Dr. Anna. Let's talk about, what's chased you online, because you used to be a very private person. Something
I
must have
still
happened.
am.
Something must have happened pre and post COVID. Talk to us about the vision behind the Think and Reimagine.
Well, Nifemi, it's interesting you should say I've always been a private person. I think I am still a private person. I mean, my private life is very much so. But in this space, in the work that we do, I do have to have a public persona, and that's what we always want to present. And I like to believe that I've kept them separate, but we know that in life, things intermingle here and there, and there's an intersection of ideas and thoughts. But Think and Reimagined began 1st of January 2021. I believe that was the first date that we went on the air. And the idea behind Think and Reimagined was really a platform for intergenerational dialogue. It was bringing the elephant from under the table and putting it so that everyone could see it, everyone could interact with it. You mentioned a few minutes ago the 16 Days of Activism. The reality is that started 30 years ago. 30 years ago, a group of activists decided that it was time to raise the issue and put it on a platform where people could see, engage, learn, and interact, and positively try to reduce the level of violence against women. Unfortunately, it hasn't been successful, and COVID has not helped, because we know that currently about 40% of women in Nigeria, not to speak of globally, have been affected by violence during the COVID period. But these are the things that we need to talk about. If we had a platform like Think and Reimagined, where generations can speak about the issues of violence from their perspective, perhaps we would have tamed and controlled and made inroads in this respect, but unfortunately it continues. And when we speak about violence, we're speaking about the spectrum from domestic violence to sexual violence, emotional violence, human trafficking, child brides. I mean, the gamut is just enormous. But I hope and always believe that as long as we have a platform like Think and Reimagined, that people will come, people will talk, people will share ideas, and hopefully through that we educate and we impact and bring solutions to the forefront. It's one thing to talk, it's another thing to have solutions, and those solutions need to bring about the change that's necessary so that the other 50% is respected and can be an active participant in their lives and in the society.
Absolutely. So I'm going to return to you briefly to identify at what point you decided to go online with this and what inspired it. But Mr. Boyo, what inspires you to keep talking? Dr. Amma talks about how challenging it can be when you are talking about these issues, but day after day, you're still facing with the challenges. It is the right thing to discuss them. But at the same time, it gets to a point where you just would want actions, to double the talk, particularly when you consider the figures. You talked about the issue of gender-based violence. There's lots of awareness about it. You can still do a lot more. But what inspires you to keep talking in the face of the contradictions?
Well, like Dr. Amma says, gender-based violence needs to be addressed. And what inspires me the most is that there has to be a dialogue that's going on, because when we say gender-based violence, we're not just talking about men against women or women against men. It goes both ways. So the dialogue and the narrative has to be brought to light. And in different societies where it's an unspoken norm, this thinking and imagined brings us to the highlight because we're talking about it. We're bringing awareness to it. People are dialoguing. People are getting the ideas that they can speak about it. People are learning that it's happening to other people, and it's not just a personal thing that's happening to them. So thinking and imagining to me is talking, bringing to the foreground what is going on. We have many, many instances where you have like a seminar or you have a broadcast or whatever, and then people are like, oh, so this is not just me. I never knew it was happening to so and so. And then there's also the fact that people, when you talk about gender-based violence, it's the idea that it's only men hitting their wives, but no, it goes way, way, way beyond that. Like Dr. Amma said, there's human trafficking, there's abuse, there's child abuse, there's spousal abuse, husbands abusing their wives, wives also abusing their husbands, and especially for the female to male abuse, it's hidden, and it's like a shameful act. Like the husbands cannot go out and say, my wife is beating me up or my wife is attacking me, but it happens all the time. I'm talking as a man now from that perspective. It happens to a lot of men that abuse. And then I have a lot of personal instances, not myself, but of cases where the women do not speak out. And a platform like this highlights and lets us know that it is okay to speak out. There's help out there, and if it's happening to so and so, and they talk about it, it helps someone else who is also fighting with the stigma or fighting with the urge to tell somebody, speak out, tell somebody, come on a platform like this, talk about it. If you want to be anonymous, send a message. We also offer well, not guidance, but by talking about it, you can learn about how to get help, who to contact, and sometimes we post like different numbers or contacts or just how to get help. So Think and Reimagine is thinking in a different way, not the norm. So that's what really inspires me, just to bring it out there in your face.
And, this idea of challenging the mindset for a better global society isn't new with the podcast series. It is something that Dr. Amma and the team are known for. I mean, I have had the privilege of anchoring live events in the past years, bringing people, stakeholders across board to discuss these pertinent issues. And, it's just pretty much amazing how Dr. Hammer has kept going on. There are things you do for a while, but then when you continually do a thing, it just shows how passionate you are about it and how committed you are to the cause. Because this is what you've done also with Live Abundantly over the years. Just talk to us. At what point did you start thinking of a podcast series and going online with all of them?
Nifemi, that's a very good question, because in all honesty, I've always felt that podcast, radio, television, and media is essential for getting messages across. When we started, the idea, the concept for Think and Reimagined was there. So Live Abundantly, which started in 2017, actually had Think and Reimagined as an aspect of it, and Live Abundantly produces Think and Reimagined. But it wasn't the right time because I was getting my feet wet. I was getting the lay of the land. Oh, hello, sweetheart. How are you? Oh, are we going to see the face, just the back of the head for today? Thank you for joining us. Oh, what a sweetheart. It's so glad to see another generation joining us. That's what I love about this podcast. The children can participate in a very interesting way. They're learning already without even realizing that they're part of the whole process that's going on here. So kudos to you, Nifemi, for what you do with your beautiful daughters and keeping them engaged in this process. Oh, she's such a darling. Well, take the time to hold her lovingly. Ah, look at that. What a sweetheart. So, it just seemed last year, or was it last year with COVID, that it was a good time for us to launch Think and Reimagine. It was a good time for us to connect with a wider audience because we weren't able to do physical events. By the way, the title Think and Reimagined is actually credited to one of my children who came up with it. So that title has been there since 2016. It just became the time to launch it. So to my child, the person knows himself, I thank you. But really, it's about changing the mind. I know Nifem is going to start pushing questions, not going to happen. But it really is about not just changing the mindset, but actively engaging with people to understand that you play a role in your life, in the lives of your neighbors, in the lives of your family, and you can get information, and information is vital. We need information for change. We need information to grow. We need information to have policies, but more importantly, we need information to be accountable. And the laws are there, but if you're not implementing viable solutions and being accountable, then you don't make that change. You don't see the change. But here's the thing. If you can affect the life of one person who affects the life of another, then through the process of multiplicity, you have actually affected many lives. And that's what we aim for, to impact lives and to have dialogue, intergenerational dialogue. So much is hidden under the table. We need to bring it onto the table. We need to talk about it. We need to address it. Enough is enough. And the more we stay silent, the more we perpetrate or allow it to perpetrate itself. And with the advent of the, what you call it, sustainable development goals, it's become really mandatory that governments, individuals, businesses, schools, everybody, the whole community, everybody is a stakeholder in this because it affects all. It affects women, it affects girls, it affects boys, it affects men. The ratio at which it affects women is far greater, but it does not mean that it does not affect men and boys as well.
Thank you so much for all you do, Dr. Amma. I agree with you that dialogue is powerful. Thinking about why do family members stick together? It's beyond just being blood relations. It's because they talk together a lot. And that is what has happened to, everyone who's been a part of this podcast. You just keep talking to one another and you begin to grow closer over the years. Mr. Boyo, I'm going to put it on the spot now. Which do you consider to be the most profound episode of the Thinking Reimagined podcast for you? Most interesting thereabouts.
Well, hands down, it is the episode Why Men Should Cry, because I think that was like, I don't even know how to describe it. I don't think there's been a podcast of just all men. I'm talking about crying. It wasn't a serious topic, because a lot of things came out of that topic. Do you understand? Like men keeping their emotions bottled up and how it can lead to depression or abuse, or men crying when they're happy, or men going hiding, or men saying, be a man, stop crying in public. So I think that episode really brought out a new vibe in the Thinking Imagined for everyone. You think and you imagine it. And that was my just absolute best episode.
Absolutely. I agree with you. So if you're wondering what we talked about on Why Men Should Cry, you should check it out on all of our platforms. We're on Apple Podcast and Google Podcast, Anchor FM, Spotify. We even have that episode on YouTube, Leaves Abundantly. I mean, it's so exciting. I remember one guy saying he cried a few days before that recording, and it was because his girlfriend broke his heart.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I'm going to get back to
Nifemi, I need to ask you a question. Yes. Which is your favorite episode?
My favorite, yes. Oh my. So, all right. I think it would be. Can you remember that episode where we had some sponsors come around for the female surveyors? I just loved how the podcast moved from mere talking to acting. I mean, I remember when we announced the winners, and one of the ladies, almost instantly broke down and was crying. I mean, it was so touching. It was emotional. I felt that we're not just talking, that we were touching lives. And one of them even joined in a subsequent episode. And it's just amazing to see people, to see us touch lives and impact them positively. It's one thing to motivate and inspire someone. It's another thing when you have the privilege to help them push, pay their school fees. That's just amazing. The reaction for me was top notch. Of course, I would have taken.
That's very interesting.
Why Men Should Cry, but
absolutely, that was inspiring, touching lives, because that's what we do. And because of COVID, there's no physical contact, but virtually we're still touching lives. So kudos to TR team. So yeah, that's good.
I agree with you, Mr. Boyo. So let's put Dr. Armand.
Yes.
Which is your most favorite episode?
I don't, I've birthed all of these in one way or the other, so I can't say I have a favorite, but there's some that stick out, and the one you mentioned with the female survey students is very dear to my heart for many reasons. I just love it, just love it. And we continue to work with those young ladies. We've actually been doing mentoring and sponsorship sessions with them. And we hope to bring them back in the new year so that they can actually share with people the things that they've been experiencing since March of this year. I also liked, and it always is one that I return to when I'm speaking with them or other people, is the internet never forgets. People don't realize that the information they put on the internet doesn't disappear. It's there. It lives with you. It affects your life. It affects your ability to get a visa, your ability to land a job, it just affects your life. And so being mindful about those kinds of things is very important. We're so quick to pick up the phone, and young people are very quick to, go online and respond to posts and put up, honestly, sometimes nonsensical content that they don't realize is going to affect them when they're trying to get into university or secure a job or a visa or whatever in the future. So we have to be mindful. There was an episode that was very troubling, which was the young girls that were half naked, gyrating. I think we remember that. That really touched a chord in my heart, and I thought, my goodness, how can we fail the next generation? So that struck a chord, and till today we never found out who those girls were. We never able to directly interact with them, but hopefully those who saw it learned the importance of protecting the girls, the importance of educating the girls, and the importance of watching what your children are doing. Being a parent is beyond paying school fees and providing nourishment and a roof over their head. There's so much more that parents must do these days for the safety and well-being of their children. So I also enjoyed that episode. But as I said, I love them all because conceptually I do create them. But I'm sure if you ask me in another month or two, I may have some others that will come up. And yes, I did enjoy the last episode, and I've had so much feedback. Like, how did you get those men to be so brutally honest? And I said, well, honesty is one of our hallmarks. You have to be honest and you have to be authentic. So there you go. I did like them. So the two you've mentioned and many others have been very touching. Oh, and I forgot to mention the young one, the youth series. I love when the youth come on. Yes. I love when they speak because they speak with passion. They understand that the future is really in their hands and they want a chance just to be. So yeah, I would say those. Definitely.
I've always wanted to ask you this, Dr. Amma. How do you come up with these topics? Because you came up with the why men should cry topic. Is it that you sleep at night and then some extraterrestrial forces bring the ideas to you? What exactly do you do? Is there a tea you drink or something?
Oh, no. Well, I mean, I do have my specialties that I drink and I do try to sleep, but the team will probably tell you that when most people are sleeping, I am awake. And for someone who knows the importance of sleep and the whole idea and concepts of neuroscience, I sometimes have to admit I don't sleep as much as I would wish, but I do sleep. But the ideas, if the truth be known, generally come to me when I'm being still. I'm either out walking my 10 kilometers, which I do 4 to 5 days a week, or when I'm just being still. And in that particular case, I actually know what happened. A gentleman rang us with a crisis and he was crying. And our operations manager said to him, why are you crying? Aren't you a man? And I said, I beg your pardon, he's a man with emotions and he has the right to cry. And I actually prefer that he shed the tears and relieve himself of that burden so that we can now help him with the solutions. And I turned around and said, International Men's Day, why men should cry. And that's how it came. So I'm always present. I really live from a place of presence in association with those around me and the environment. And if you're present and connected to those around you and the environment, you will get the cues and the universe will speak to you. That's the best way I can describe it. But usually my topics come up when I'm on my 10-kilometer walk, which I do 4 or 5 days a week. Yeah.
I think I will have to join my wife now on those walks. If that's the secret. I used to tell her that I have I have no excess flesh to shed, but I think it's just more than shedding weight now. Mr. Boyo, let's get to your pillow talk content on Instagram. I mean, I like the choice of topic, pillow talk. Pillow guys would rather do pillow fights with their girlfriend. But you are doing pillow talk. What's it about?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's how it came about. I wanted to speak to people, but I wanted to speak to them from my heart to their heart. So I was like, okay, now what is the best time to talk to someone? It's pillow talk. We all know what pillow talk means. It's the most intimate, authentic, genuine conversation you can have. So I'm like, I want it to be raw. I want to talk to you as you. I don't want it to be scripted. I don't want to give you any script that you can plan your answers. I want it to be just, like they say, mano a mano, face to face. And that's how the concept came about. And on Instagram, I always got this request to do a live show. So I was like, okay, maybe it's time to do a live show. I mean, I'm always on Thinking Reimagined podcast. I'm on other people's talk shows. So why not just start something? And so that's how it came about. So I get like my close friends. I get people in the same industry with me. I get people that the audience wants to talk to. For instance, I got someone that does skincare, but not bleaching, which there's really a big market for bleaching, but she is doing skincare. And so she came on, and we had almost like 1,000 people tune in just to ask questions. And they learned so much about skincare and health benefits and the medical side of skincare as opposed to the beauty of skincare. And then I've had like some of my industry people like Colorful Characters. I've had some bloggers. I mean, I've had different people, different folks, and I'm going to invite the team from Thinking Imagine, Dr. Armand and Ifemi one of these days to come on Pillow Talk so we can see a different side of you guys. So it's not so, let me say, straight-laced, and we'll see I'm not saying Thinking Imagine is not fun, don't get me wrong, but just a different side. Your hat off, in bed, just sipping tea and reading a book, and I just
Do
catch
you guys actually have the conversation on the bed?
Well, it started off that way, but since I'm always on location, I found out that when I'm on location, the person's holding a pillow and they're like, "Where's your pillow?" I'm like, "Okay, sorry." So I'm gonna have to like create a pillow that I take around with me. But it was supposed, and that's why the timing was late at night, 9 p.m. West African time, so that you're in bed, you're relaxed, you know, you're having your nightcap or whatever, and we just talk.
It's understandable, Mr. Boyo. People take what they do in bed everywhere in the house these days. The kitchen,
Yes.
the kitchen room. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right. So
well, I wanted to say something about when he
please.
said authentic conversation, not scripted.
Yes.
It is one of the things I'm very proud about with Think and Reimagine. We never know what your questions are going to be, Nifemi. There's nothing scripted about what we do. We come on, we give people the title, and they come on and they answer the questions. We don't generate any pre-information, front loading of the topic.
I don't even know the questions I'm going to ask most times.
Yes, and that's what I love.
So how do I tell you
about it too?
But I'm just wondering because Peter just mentioned that I'm going to come on to Pillow Talk, and he told me yesterday when you come on, it's going to be during the holidays when you're relaxed. And I thought, well, how am I going to do that? Do I come on with my gilly or do I don't know. That should be interesting. I'll be in bed.
Interesting. I'm coming for you, don't worry.
But
I will just see you laugh. Yeah.
So I'm curious about how that's going to be.
I remember reading Larry King's book, How to Talk to Anyone at Any Time.
Yes.
How many of you remember Larry King on CNN? Fantastic.
Oh, yeah,
definitely. And, one of the things he talked about is how very difficult it is to get authentic conversation with another person. You know, how to get behind that wall and make them talk and make them speak from their heart. How has that been for you, Mr. Boyo? I mean, being able to reach people's hearts during these conversations.
Funny you should say that, because when the first few times when I invited people, they were like, okay, what are we going to talk about? I said, just be yourself. Just talk to us. And they're like, well, can you give me like a pre-interview or questions? I was like, no, I'm just going to ask you what you feel like. And don't worry, you'll be comfortable. I'm not going to ask you anything that's going to offend you or make you feel uncomfortable. And then when they tell me, okay, maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And then when we get online, we talk for 1 hour and they're like, I have never felt so comfortable. So you have to give them that comfortable feeling. You have to be authentic to them. When they see that genuine interest, like somebody's talking to you and you're not giving eye contact, or you're doing something else, you lose focus. And then you listen to what the person is saying, just like you do. You always listen and you pick up from the conversation. So it makes the person comfortable and it brings out the genuine conversation. You do it. I do. We all do it. So thank you too.
All right, that's another masterclass on live interviews. Yeah, featuring Mr. Boyo. All right, Dr. Abba, we have to go now, but I'd like you to talk to us. I see that one of the features on Thinking Reimagined that you're so particular about is intergenerational conversation, being able to sample opinion, not just from a particular stakeholder, but across board. And I think it's fantastic talking to women, talking to young people, talking to the elderly, talking to someone living outside Nigeria. It just makes the conversation very rich. And then you can get to see how people see things from different perspectives. I'd like you to give us the tips of an iceberg on what we're going to have, because I know that we're going to have an international conversation very soon in the light of the Days of Activism.
Yes, we are. That idea really comes from my childhood, having grandmothers, I should say, who told stories, and it's part of our rich heritage. We live in a culture currently, or in a world where information is passed on generationally. So you sit down in the evenings and you have dialogue. And I always loved it. I remember as a child having aunts and grandmother and mom and, cousins, and this richness of the conversation. It was so gritty and at the same time authentic, and the laughter. And I've always captured it. And I learned so much from my grandmothers. And I thought that's a great way to do this podcast. Intergenerationally, you learn. You would learn from the elderly as the elderly learn from the new ones. There's so much to learn from this current Gen Z, their lingo, their perspective on life. And then you look at the millennials, who are not that much older than them, and their twist on life is very different from someone like me. I am a baby boomer. So, my perspective is also different. So I like that, that longitudinal approach of looking at a topic and people's sharing their experience, because our perspectives are all different. I mean, I would like to bring in some more people, but I think conversation is critical. Conversation connects you with people. And if you don't connect with people, then you can't really enjoy the richness of life and what it's supposed to be. And you can't have compassion for others or empathy. That comes around when you connect. And that's what we want to do over here, is connect with people, change minds, think differently, act differently, and bring about the change that is necessary for this world to continue to exist and to impact lives is very critical. So next week, we're going to have an international panel. It will be myself, a team from the United States of America, a team from the United Kingdom. It's going to be all women. But with them, they will be bringing another generation that is part of their program, so that the younger ones and the founders have a chance to dialogue, and it will give the perspective of what is going on in other places. The issues that we're dealing with here on gender violence or youth issues is global. It's not limited to where we are, but to see their perspective on what they're doing is very important, because, you know, we live in the digital world, and the world that we thought was this large is really this large right now, particularly since we do everything electronically. So I'm looking forward to that discussion, and it should be great fun. But
I am too.
I want to end. It is going to be, but I want to end on this note, because I've been thinking about 16 days of activism and what it is that we should be focused on. And some of it, Mr. Boyo mentioned, we need to encourage people to speak up. We need to encourage women, children, even the men who are being abused to speak up. Tell somebody who can support you in the process of unburdening yourself and having action occur. We need to empower others. So education, awareness, it's very critical. We need to advocate for others. It's so powerful when you can speak on behalf of another. Not only do you give them credence for the stories that they're sharing, it's very difficult to share stories. It's very difficult to speak on what you have experienced, because it opens up a wound that you think has healed, and the emotions come through. So it's important to advocate for others. We need to fight for equality of women. It is so critical. When we have equality, we can reduce the level of violence that we endure. And that goes to harassment in the workplace, harassment when you're walking down the street. It permeates the culture. It's become so acceptable, and yet it is offensive, and it diminishes the value of another person. And we need to find solutions. It is critical that we have solutions, implementable solutions, not this highfalutin ideas that people come up with, but they cannot implement it. And most importantly, accountability. We are all accountable for ourselves and the others in our lives.
Absolutely. The conversation continues on all platforms: Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor FM, Spotify. We stream all of our recordings live on Facebook. You can get the recording also on YouTube at Leaves Abundantly. Well, if you are just joining us for the first time, you should check this out on a weekly basis. In one of those intergenerational conversations was when Dr. Armand learned the expression "Jackpot." It's just that she doesn't know how to pronounce it. She still pronounces it like a white woman.
Jackpot.
Yeah, you see, it's Jackpot.
Jackpot.
Say Jackpot.
Jackpot.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Boyo.
Thank you very much.
Boyo is a director, an actor, and also a co-producer on Thinking Reimagined. Is the presenter, the anchor and producer of the Pillow Talk live show on Instagram. Thank you for sharing with us today.
I just want to say one more thing.
Yes, please do.
What Dr. Armand said, men have a right to cry.
Yes, they do. I agree with you. I've been trying to cry ever since we had that conversation. I hope I'll get there someday.
You certainly will.
Thank you so much for all you do. We appreciate you. We are hoping that you will keeping strong, and then you would have the opportunity to do everything that's on your heart to do, and even do it on a bigger and greater platform. Dr. Amma is Executive Director of Live Abundantly, and she's the executive producer of this show. We love you and we really appreciate you. Thank you for this special one. See you guys again next week. I'm Nifemi too.
And we appreciate you too, Nifemi. Thank you for being with us over the last 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It's my pleasure, man.
Regards to the girls.
Yeah, so they're here.
Okay.
Is your cavity clean, eh?